The massive iron gates slowly opened. Mica stared silently through the car window as Theo's mansion appeared before her. It looked less like a home and more like a palace. Tall white pillars, huge glass windows, luxury cars lined outside. Fountains sparkled beneath the evening lights. Everything felt cold, expensive, perfect, and somehow terrifying. Theo stepped out of the car first, but Mica didn't move immediately. Her hands slowly tightened against her dress. Theo noticed. "Come." His voice was calm again, cold again. Mica finally stepped out, the moment she entered the mansion. Several maids bowed respectfully. "Welcome home, Mrs. Villareal." Mrs. Villareal. The title made her chest tighten painfully. A woman approached warmly. "I'm Clara, the head maid, if you need anything." "I don't," Mica interrupted softly. The woman immediately fell silent. Meanwhile, Theo loosened his tie tiredly. "You'll stay on the second floor." Mica finally looked at him angrily. "That's all you're going to say?" Theo remained quiet. Mica's frustration instantly exploded. "What is happening, Theo?" Her voice echoed across the mansion. "You marry me suddenly. Bring me here. Act nice one moment and cold the next." She stepped closer. "And you still refuse to tell me the truth." Theo's jaw tightened. "Mica!" "No." Her eyes filled with tears. "I left my family. My entire life. And I don't even know why." For a moment, Theo looked like he wanted to say something important. But then his expression hardened again. "You're safer here." Mica stared at him in disbelief. "Safe from what?" But Theo simply turned away. "I'm tired." That answer completely shattered her patience. "You know what?" Mica whispered painfully. "I hate talking to you." Theo froze briefly, but he still didn't turn around. And somehow, that hurt even more. That night, Mica cried alone inside the massive bedroom. The room was beautiful. Soft lights, luxury furniture, a king-sized bed bigger than her entire apartment living room. But none of it felt comforting, because for the first time in her life, she felt completely alone. The next morning, Mica woke up to silence. The other side of the bed was already empty. Theo had left early, again. Days slowly passed inside the mansion, and every single day, Theo became busier and colder. Sometimes he came home late at night, sometimes not at all. Then finally, one morning during breakfast, Theo spoke calmly. "I'm leaving for a business trip." Mica looked up immediately. "For how long?" 2 weeks. Her heart sank unexpectedly, but she quickly hid the feeling. "Oh." Theo quietly drank his coffee. The silence between them felt painful now. Then finally, Theo stood up. "I'll have security stay with you." Mica frowned slightly. "You're leaving just like that?" Theo looked at her quietly. "I have work." No goodbye, no explanation, nothing. Then he left. The sound of the mansion doors closing echoed heavily through the house, and suddenly, Mica realized she was angry, very angry. "Unbelievable," she muttered bitterly. The first few days without Theo felt peaceful, too peaceful. The mansion was quiet, cold, empty. Mica wandered through the massive halls alone every day. Sometimes she watched movies. Sometimes she read books from Theo's enormous library. Sometimes she stood near the balcony staring at the city lights. But slowly, the loneliness became unbearable. One afternoon, Mica decided she wanted to visit her family. She quickly grabbed her bag and headed downstairs. But the moment she reached the front gate, 2 bodyguards stepped in front of her. "I'm sorry, ma'am. You can't leave." Mica blinked in shock. "What?" "Mr. Villareal's orders." Her expression darkened instantly. "He can't control me." The guards lowered their heads respectfully. "We apologize, ma'am." Mica felt anger rise inside her chest. So Theo had basically trapped her here. That night, Mica sat alone beside the bedroom window while rain slowly fell outside again. 2 weeks, and Theo hadn't contacted her even once. No calls, no messages, nothing. Mica hugged her knees quietly against her chest. Then softly, almost angrily, she whispered, "I hate you, Theodore Villareal." 3 more days passed. Still nothing from Theo. No calls and no messages, and not even a simple, "How are you?" Mica became more irritated every single day. One morning, she stormed downstairs angrily after another failed attempt to leave the mansion. "This is ridiculous!" The maids immediately became nervous. Clara carefully approached her. "Mrs. Villareal, stop calling me that!" Mica's voice sounded exhausted now. "I feel like a prisoner here." Clara looked guilty. "Mr. Villareal only wants to protect you." "There's that word again," Mica snapped softly. "Protect." She laughed bitterly. "From what?" But no one answered. Later that night, Mica wandered into Theo's private office for the first time. The room smelled faintly like him. Clean, cold, expensive. Large windows overlooked the glowing New York skyline. Curious. Mica slowly walked around the room, then her eyes landed on a framed photograph sitting beside the desk. She froze. It was an old picture. Young Mica, smiling brightly beside the mansion fountain. Her chest tightened instantly. Why would Theo keep this? Slowly, Mica opened one of the desk drawers. Inside were dozens of things that shocked her. Old photos of her family, school records, medical receipts for her younger siblings, even documents showing anonymous payments made for her brother's school tuition years ago. Mica's hands trembled. What? Then suddenly, a folded document slipped from the drawer. Mica slowly opened it, and her entire body froze. Threat reports, photos, surveillance pictures of her father gambling with dangerous men. One sentence was highlighted repeatedly. "Use the daughter if payment fails." Fear rushed through her body instantly. Before Mica could fully process everything, a loud thunderstorm suddenly shook the mansion. The lights flickered. Then, the mansion alarms suddenly started blaring loudly. Mica jumped in fear. Voices echoed downstairs, running footsteps, bodyguards shouting. Then Clara suddenly burst into the office looking terrified. "Mrs. Villareal! What's happening?" Before Clara could answer, one of the guards shouted from downstairs, "Someone broke through the back gate!" Mica's heart stopped, and for the first time, she finally understood why Theo had trapped her inside the mansion. Outside, rain poured heavily again while guards surrounded the mansion, but before they could reach the exit, several armed men suddenly appeared. "Stop right there!" Mica gasped in fear. Theo immediately stepped protectively in front of her. One of the men laughed coldly. "The great Theodore Villareal. Looks like you really love this woman." Theo's jaw tightened dangerously. "Let her go." The man smirked. "Your father owed us millions years ago. Your husband paid for it, but not the interest." Mica froze. "What?" Theo slowly looked at her. Pain filled his eyes. "I paid them, but they wanted more." The man stepped closer angrily. $1 million. With interest. Tonight. Mica's heart pounded wildly. Theo slowly removed his watch calmly. "You'll get your money." The man laughed mockingly. "You think this is just business now?" Theo's expression became ice cold. "No." Slowly, Theo stepped in front of Mica completely. "But if you touch my wife," his voice became deadly quiet, "I'll destroy every single one of you." Silence filled the room. Even the dangerous men hesitated. Then finally, Theo's assistant suddenly arrived with several guards carrying black cases. The cases opened. Stacks of cash, documents, transfers. $1 million, Theo said coldly. With interest. The leader stared at the money carefully. Then finally, he smirked. Seems the billionaire really is in love. Theo said nothing, because it was true. A few moments later, the men finally left the mansion. The danger was over. For the first time in weeks, the mansion became quiet again. Mica slowly looked toward Theo. You knew all this time. Theo lowered his eyes tiredly. I tried to protect you without dragging you into my world. Mica's eyes filled with tears. You idiot! Theo looked surprised. Mica suddenly hit his chest weakly while crying. You made me think you didn't care. Theo gently held her wrists. I cared too much. Silence filled the space between them. Then softly, Theo whispered, I've loved you since childhood. Mica froze completely. What? Theo laughed bitterly. You really never noticed? Suddenly, memories returned to Mica. College hallways, arguments, competitive exams, Theo always challenging her, always teasing her coldly, always watching her. You were my rival, Mica whispered softly. Theo smiled faintly. And you were the only girl who never cared about my money. Mica's tears slowly fell harder. I hated you. Theo stepped closer carefully. I know. Then quietly, Mica smiled through her tears. But I think I loved you too. Theo froze completely. For the first time in years, the cold billionaire finally looked speechless. Then suddenly, he pulled her into his arms tightly, and this time, Mica hugged him back willingly. Months later, life slowly became peaceful. Mica returned to smiling again. Theo became softer around her, warmer, gentler. The mansion no longer felt cold, because finally, it became a real home. 4 years later, small laughter filled the mansion hallways every single day. Twin children, a little girl with Mica's smile, and a little boy with Theo's sharp eyes. One afternoon, Mica sat beside the garden while watching the twins run across the grass. Theo quietly walked behind her before wrapping his arms around her waist gently. You're smiling again, he whispered. Mica leaned against him softly. I'm happy. Theo kissed her forehead carefully. Good. Mica looked up at him lovingly. You know, what? You're still cold sometimes. Theo laughed softly. Only to everyone except you. The twins suddenly ran toward them happily. Mommy! Daddy! Theo immediately carried their daughter while Mica held their son, and beneath the warm golden sunset, the family laughed together peacefully. After everything they survived, they finally found the life they always deserved. Together, forever.